What if I told you that Buzzfeed hates white people? Would you believe me? You probably would. Now, look, I don't know if it's fair to say they actually hate white people, but they certainly hold them in disdain, to say the least. So Nick Monroe has created a moment on Twitter called BuzzFeed is racist. And I used some of this in a video I made the other day about the death of American culture, where basically I said, there's no rules anymore, right? They've changed the definition of racism. And we're going to talk about all of the things that Nick Monroe has pulled up. I know Nick Monroe's been called like a far-right troll and stuff, and I know that he's friends with I think he's friends with some Generation Identity people. So I can only wonder why he brings up the issue of the white racism at BuzzFeed, but I don't think it's unfair for him to do so simply because he has certain political views. I think whether or not you're identitarian, you want to bring up a salient point, I'm willing to listen and bring it up, and I think that's why I would like to bring this up. But what I want to mention first, that, I was thinking the other day that the definition of racism, I tweeted about it. I tweeted that, this is the Oxford definition of racist, and if anyone tells you otherwise, they're trying to sell you something, probably an ideology. And the reason I brought that up is because there is, the dictionary doesn't tell us what words mean. They tell us what most people use it to mean. And so if there's a small group of people that are using an obscure academic definition and they're pumping the media full of this narrative, they're doing it to push politics because most people do not recognize that word that way. So by changing the definition, it empowers their politics. Quite simply, they do the exact same thing that the alt-right does, but they don't want to take damage from this argument. And so I started wondering, why would people accuse me of being a reactionary or alt-right? And admittedly, I was actually surprised to learn there's only been like 2 instances where I've been called alt-right in the media. One was Willamette Weekly, and they retracted and corrected. And the other was the SPLC, where they had to actually issue an apology to me for doing so, because I am clearly not. I'm pretty outspoken, and I am literally a mixed race person. But I digress. Why is it that people would try and associate me with the right, or, instead of arguing my ideas when I call them identitarian on the left or the right? And I realize it's because if the identitarian left tries to actually argue my ideas, they will be defending the alt-right, plain and simple. Because when I criticize identitarianism, I'm not differentiating between the left-wing identitarianism and the right. In some instances, I am. But if they say, Tim, what you're saying is incorrect, they would be essentially defending the alt-right. So what do they do instead? They have to put me in that camp. Then they have to change the definition of racist so that they can't be subject to the same criticism. It's really about the fact that they're so similar in so many ways, basically the same thing, just on different ends of the spectrum, that they can't argue the ideas. Otherwise, they would literally be either arguing against themselves or in favor of the alt-right. So instead of sitting there and defending identitarianism, which they are, on the left I mean, what they're going to do is change the definition of words so you can't call them alt-right or identitarianism, right? This assumption of institutional power. But I'll tell you what, as we move into this thread by Nick Monroe, the definition of racist by the Oxford Dictionary is someone who is prejudicial or discriminatory towards people of other races. Plain and simple. That being said, that means that technically, according to the Oxford Dictionary, white people are not racist if they're criticizing white people. Anybody who criticizes someone of their own race is not being racist. So let's take a look at what Nick Monroe tweeted. And he's got the BuzzFeed arrow, but it's going down instead. How clever. So first he has Shanika Johnson, and he's apparently, let's see. So she says, he tweeted out, next time you find a Twitter account like this, please let me know. And I guess the point of this tweet was that he was expecting like 1 or 2, but he got way more. And honestly, I think Nick knew full well he was going to get inundated with BuzzFeed employees who hate white people, plain and simple. And so he's got this woman, Shanika Johnson. And she said, fuck white America. She said, so many women, Black, Hispanic, and Asian Americans in Senate and Congress now, middle-aged white men are slowly becoming a minority. Beautiful. She said, now the white women can't keep their hands off our men, so as they continue to make mixed babies, the white man will cease to exist. Pow, LOL. And this is a CBS News producer. So, according to the Oxford Dictionary definition, she is showing prejudice against other races. This woman is racist, according to the Oxford Dictionary. Now, there is a small minority of people who believe that racism means something totally different. And it's absurd to try and change the definition of word to fit your political ideology or your academic definition when most people don't recognize the word that way. So although there have been pretty well-made arguments, like I've pointed out in the past, that the left and the right simply speak different languages because the left believes racism means something different, I also point out that it's absurd to try and change the definition of racist, and that's what they do in these universities. So Nick ended up pulling up a lot more. He's got another Twitter Moments about a bunch of stories that are anti-white. And then let's see here. So he's got a series here of a bunch of different Buzzfeed employees. Let's look at the image. Okay, white people gotta hate them so much from Justin Ling. Okay, so let's look at this. Joe Bernstein, apparently white, not racist, according to the Oxford definition. All right, other races. But here we have Tracy, Bumisha, and Clayton. That is racist. Hattie is racist. Basically, all of the people who work at BuzzFeed who are non-white, according to the Oxford definition, are racist. But for whatever reason, I guess, according to Oxford, you are allowed to disparage your own race, and that's not racist. So we learn something new every day. However, I do believe it's fair to say that regardless of whether or not you want to call it racist, what Nick Monroe has pulled up is that, plain and simple, BuzzFeed pretty much doesn't like white people, which is weird for me. You know what's weird for me is that I've been criticized by the alt-right for not having an identity. I've been told there was someone who tweeted something at me and roaming millennial because we're mixed Asian that God, what was it? Something to the effect of like, we struggle with identity and that causes problems for us, and that's why we oppose identitarianism. And it's so easy for the left, which includes white people and Latinos and black people, it's so easy for them to be identitarian because they all have they're monoethnic. So they can easily say, this is what I am, this is what I believe. And the alt-right is similar, except they're white identitarians. And they argue that for mixed race people, we don't. And you know what? I gotta say, yes, I guess I agree, because I've never in my life been like thought of myself as part of any particular group or identity. It's just never been that way. And it could be because I grew up with a bunch of different people, black, Asian, Mexican, white, and we were just people. We were American, and that was it. And this is one of the reasons I don't like identitarianism. Because now what they're trying to do is they're trying to shuffle everyone into little boxes. Both the left and the right, identitarians in general, want racial consciousness. Even Don Lemon said on CNN he wants to be seen as a black man. And sure, by all means, have the opinion. I just don't think that's a good thing. Colbert used to joke that he was colorblind on his show, and people would laugh. And the point was that he was playing a Republican caricature who was supposed to be not racist. But now we really have both sides, to an extent both sides, because obviously like moderate right-wingers don't like identitarianism, and some people on the left don't like identitarianism. But I think too many people on the left do, and then you have your contingent of people on the right who do, which is, the alt-right. And I guess it makes sense. So it's weird for me to see this white hate. I'm like, why are a bunch of white people like crapping on themselves? And yes, I am part white. But because I'm mixed, or for whatever, because of my upbringing, I don't identify as like being a part of these groups. I identify as like me and my own thing and like outside of whatever that is. And so I get criticism from that. Now the left will call me white because I obviously can't be a part of their group if I'm willing to criticize them. And the alt-right, actually, it's a mixed reaction. Some people just shit on me outright. There's like leaked messages where they're like mocking me for being mixed. And there are some people on the alt-right who try to just explain to me and convince me of why they're identitarian. And I've actually had, I can't remember who it was, but they said something to the effect that they believe exactly what Black Lives Matter believes, but for white people. And I'm like, oh, okay, that's simple. So let's take a look at some of this. Monroe says, while I'm not exactly sure all the accounts in that pictures are BuzzFeed staff, there are enough of them that do or did work there. Thus, I can say with some sense of confidence that BuzzFeed's company culture seems to have an ingrained anti-white racism within it. And yes, according to the Oxford definition, these people are racist, for the most part. So then we have Louis Peitzman. I don't want to call out too many of these people because I'm not trying to brigade or cause any of this. I just wanted to go through Nick Monroe's thread showing you just how much BuzzFeed really does hate white people. And I will add too, digging up old tweets is silly. I really, digging up the past, so dumb. Unfortunately for Justin Ling, he literally responded to this recently by posting about how he hates white people. Like literally 2 weeks ago, because people were digging up his tweets, he was like, hey, I just want to say it. So it's not even an old tweet. It's literally something pervasive within these digital media companies where they hate white people. All right, so this person says, I'm having I hate white people week. And so my question is, look, I understand the institutional racism, intersectionality, whatever. But why is it okay to just attack someone for the way they look or the way they were born? That doesn't help anybody. It's just ridiculous to do, to say the least. You know, I can just keep scrolling down and we can see what kind of white nonsense is this. It's like, how many of these people would criticize any other race? How many? Probably not. So let's yeah, I don't know. I think it's fairly obvious to everybody that BuzzFeed culture is pervasive. But I'm going to end with this because I'm getting pretty wiped out today. I worked for Fusion, which is now Splinter News. I worked for Vice. This sentiment is not unique. This is urban New York culture. They think it's funny. They grew up on this stuff. And what's really fucked up about it is that it really is these upper white class people shitting on lower white class people, and they think they're funny. It blows my mind when they talk about this idea of white privilege, and to an extent I can agree with some of that argument. But the problem then comes when you look at the middle of the country. When you grow up on the south side of Chicago, where there are white people who are on drugs and homeless living in crack houses the police beat every day. So sure, to an extent, there is some kind of majority privilege because white people, but I'll tell you what I told a lot of people. It's more of a cultural privilege. If a white dude wearing a tank top and baggy pants walks in for a job interview and he says, yeah, man, I want to get me a job, they're going to be like, this guy's not fit. And if he shows up wearing nice clothes and a polo shirt shakes their hand, he might. And it doesn't matter what your race is, so long as you have the certain culture within you. And so you can say that there is a cultural privilege for sure. But when they reduce it to race, they basically create problems for people for no reason, for seriously no reason. Coleman Hughes is a great thinker. He's he's associated with the intellectual dark web, I suppose. But he told me that why even bother? I'm going to paraphrase him, but why bother creating race-based policies when class-based poverties would solve a lot of the same problems and be beneficial to everybody, and it would end the division? And I got to say, I agree. Anyway, I got a splitting headache. I got to get out of here. This is my last video for the day, but thanks for hanging out, and I'll see you guys tomorrow.